Hello and welcome to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio, and today's episode is being brought to you by Qualia Synalytic. Thank you for the sponsor. Last night, the Israeli Defense Force conducted a raid over inside of northern Lebanon, and we're going to talk about that with some on-the-ground footage of their elite commando unit, Shaitet 13, that ended up conducting the raid and capturing a major Hezbollah terrorists. Additionally, we're going to be talking about a rocket attack that took place over inside of Tel Aviv yesterday that ended up striking an apartment complex. And we're going to talk about some on-the-ground operations over inside of Lebanon. We're going to talk a little bit about what actually took place over inside the Gaza Strip. There's a huge announcement that Hamas did. And then we're going to take a look at ISIS, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda and how they are regrouping themselves over inside of Afghanistan right now and what is actually coming out of this everybody needs to be aware of and really pay attention to. If there is one thing you watch throughout this entire video, by all means, stick around to the end and make sure you're paying attention to what these terror organizations are doing in conjunction with Iran. Everything is intertwined, ladies and gentlemen. Now, last night, Shaitet 13 did in fact conduct a raid over inside of Lebanon. As a matter of fact, it conducted itself in between Beirut and Tripoli. And we're going to go ahead and zoom in here on the map and show you specifically where this took place. It took place in this tiny little coastal town here called Batroun. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's right here in the center of your map. What you're seeing is actual surveillance footage that was taken on the ground of them leaving with the terrorists that they ended up capturing. So good job to them for knocking that out. Now, Times of Israel did in fact say that they brought him back into Israel. So he's now an enemy prisoner of war. He's back in Israel and he's being interrogated by Israeli intelligence. So who was this major terrorist that they risked their lives going all the way into northern Lebanon to get? Well, it was this gentleman. His name is Imad Ahmaz. Can't even pronounce that correctly, but he was a naval commander for Hezbollah. And so they went in and they grabbed him. Apparently, he's been to lots of different civilian courses and he's responsible for a lot of other nasty things. And for some reason, Israel felt it would be appropriate to go over and nab him and bring him back. So I have no doubt that he is a major POS that they needed to get off the streets, take back to Israel and use for questioning. Now, this is the first cross-border raid that we've actually seen Israel conduct since they went into Syria and took several members of the IRGC out of some of these chemical weapons plants just a few weeks ago. Now, yesterday inside of Israel, rocket attacks were taking place at a pretty alarming rate. And Rob and I shared a video of you guys yesterday from over inside of Tyre, in which an airstrike got conducted on one such rocket location. Now, Israel's been going after these guys for quite some time, and they actually took out two commanders of some of these rocket launches, and that's what you're seeing up on your screen right now. So Israel is increasing airstrikes against these threats. So as they are sending these rockets across the border into Israel, Israel is answering back with direct airstrikes on these Hezbollah positions. It's actually really impressive how quickly they're able to get some of these rounds on target. And all of that has to do with really good integration within the F-35 fighter jets platform itself with the radar systems and everything else on the ground. Now, over inside of Beirut, Israel did conduct some more bombing, and you probably know the neighborhood that it was in. Everybody say it with me. Dakhya. That's right, that Hezbollah stronghold. Here is a video of the aftermath this morning of one of those strikes. I was not able to get a lot of good intelligence on this particular strike and figure out what target they were going after. But if they're bombing a building like that inside of Beirut, you bet your snowballs it is somebody of extremely, I guess, high importance. Now, Israel announced today that they took out two Hezbollah commanders inside of Lebanon in an airstrike that were responsible for over 400 rockets that have been fired at northern Israel since last year. Now, the IDF says they took out two terrorists inside of Tyre, which is great. And Rob and I believe, shared a video that actually came out yesterday from Tyre of a rocket launch site where they ended up taking out what appeared to be rocket launchers. And you have people on the ground running away. So I actually am starting to think that this video might be the actual video of those two terrorists being eliminated. And that's pretty dang cool. And this is the video in question that we're talking about. Now, this video is cool for several reasons. One, as we begin to scrub through it and look, you guys wait for it here in just a sec. Now, right there in this video, you guys can see this puff of smoke. That puff of smoke is likely a rocket launch that's taking place. From here, the camera is going to zoom in. Now watch, as he zooms in, you're going to see people running away from that rocket launch site. You guys see that? You've got the smoke cloud being blown out. Then you're going to have the airstrike come in. Boom. Now that airstrike hits and you have two separate detonations. And right there, you can actually see the secondary detonation of this particular strike, which is what leads me to believe that that was the rocket launch strike. Now you can see clearly the initial blast followed by the secondary blast. And if you play it like this, you're going to be able to see it. And you're going to hear two different booms. You're going to hear the boom from the bomb. And then you're also going to hear the boom from the secondary. Now that large sound, that was the rockets getting hit, and it lines up directly with what Israel's been saying, that they're going after these rocket launch teams and eliminating them. This is likely, in my opinion, because it is in Tyre and it is a rocket launch site. In my opinion, this is likely the strike that ended up taking out those two Hezbollah terrorists, but we don't know that for certain. I'm just taking an educated guess. Now, over the past day, the last 24 hours, the IDF says that they have actioned or conducted airstrikes on 120 Hezbollah positions, 120 airstrikes in a day against Hezbollah. That is very, very significant. Now, those airstrikes, I'm seeing an uptick inside of Tyre itself, which I'm going to explain why it's significant on the map. But these are from about 2 days ago of some of the airstrikes that were being conducted in Tyre. Check these ones out.
عنا يا الله يا زهراء حدنا
Now, that is very significant to me because it shows an uptick in operations over inside of Tyre. And because of this, I now have to pull out our handy dandy map. Now, Tyre, we're going to focus in on. It is right up over here. Right, it's right where you see the key on this map. Well, that black line ends up covering it. And there's a big blue circle here because underneath that big blue circle is a key intersection that Israel is going to want to control because it's key terrain. They're already over here outside of Chaim, and they're going after this city that is on the outside of another strategic location. We'll be talking about that here probably tomorrow or the next day. All right, but for now, we're going to focus on Tyre. Now I'm going to pull up a clean version of the map for you guys so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. The IDF is operating all over across the south, and to the north of all of the locations that the IDF is operating, they have these, in my opinion, what would be key terrain features, which is going to be these major road intersections. You got that one right there. You got this one right up over here on the top right that I was talking about. And then also up here in Nabatee, where the IDF has been bombing for the last couple days now, all right, is another major intersection inside of this town because it feeds all of these different locations. Similarly, when we go over to Tyre and we take a look and we zoom in on it on the map, you can see this major intersection right here. Now, it has been rumored that the IDF was going to conduct an amphibious assault to come up over in this general direction. They do have naval forces that are floating off inside of the Med. But with that being said, they have to conduct shaping operations if they were to do something like that. And right now, we're seeing a huge uptick in Israeli airstrikes up over inside of Tyre. Now, originally I had assessed that they were going to do some sort of a storm or almost like a thunder run, if you will, along the Lebanese coastline in order to get up to Tyre. Something I didn't take into account was the terrain features that Israel has to deal with going through there. This entire place is essentially a giant kill zone for ambushes because that route is sandwiched on one side by the ocean and you got high ground on the other. So it's just a giant kill zone that you get stuck in. So I'm starting to actually give more and more belief into this theory right now that the IDF may actually conduct an amphibious assault. And my thought is that it's going to be to secure this key intersection. Now, if we start seeing a significant increase, like pounding after pounding after pounding of both artillery and naval forces and airstrikes, then we know that that amphibious assault is going to take place. Now, reportedly over inside of Tel Aviv last night, they ended up having a rocket attack that struck a building. I ended up finding this video right here, which says that it is right next door to the Mossad headquarters. So it looks like Hezbollah, again, was going after the Mossad headquarters. This gentleman says that the aerial defense system failed, and it's showing him racing down the street over to the direction of that particular airstrike. Now, I do believe this is going to be the same one that we're going to be talking about here in just a sec, which is the apartment building that ended up getting struck by Hezbollah. Now, that rocket hit a very specific floor on this building, and as you can see from the damage, it took out the entire apartment. I've read multiple reports on it, 7+ injured, with reports of some people being killed on the scene. But the strike itself could be seen from pretty far away. Again, really significant damage. Israel did come back and say that multiple rockets ended up impacting inside of Israel, but they ended up conducting a counterattack and taking out that particular rocket launch. Now, suicide drones have been another major problem for Israel. Apparently, there is some jihadist organizations inside of Iraq that have been sending drones their way. Well, we've got videos of Apaches intercepting some of those as well. I think that's pretty rad. I don't know about you, but an Apache just blasting drones out of the sky, that's freaking cool. And then probably one of the biggest news that hit today, which nobody's talking about, is this POS finally has been announced dead by Hamas. You are looking at Mohammed Deif. Hey guys, I know it might be hard to believe, but I'm actually 40 years old. And if you're wondering why, maybe you need to ask yourself if you've heard of senolytics yet. It's a class of ingredients discovered less than 10 years ago, and they're being called the biggest discovery of our time for promoting healthy aging and enhancing your physical prime. Your life goals and your career are beyond requiring productivity. But let's be honest, the aging process is not our friend, and when it comes to endless energy and productivity, that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I use Qualia Senolytic. If someone would have told me that there was a science-backed ingredient that could help me feel 15 years younger in a matter of months, I wouldn't have believed it until I tried Qualia Senolytic. As we age, everyone accumulates senescent cells in their body. Senescent cells cause symptoms of aging, such as aches, discomfort, slower workout recoveries, sluggish mental and physical energy that are all associated with that middle-aged feeling. These cells are known as zombie cells, and in order to combat it, you can take Qualia Senolytic just 2 days a month. Not every day. I hate that. 2 days a month, and they have a 100-day money-back guarantee. Since I've been taking it, I've been sleeping better, have higher levels of energy, and the big one for me, I just have a more positive outlook on life. I also like to think it's made me look just a little bit younger. Resist aging at the cellular level. Try Qualia Senolytic. Go to qualialife.com/Rob for up to 50% off and use code ROB at checkout for an additional 15% off. For your convenience, Qualia Senolytic is also available at select GNC locations near you. That's QUALIA life.com/Rob for an extra 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Qualia Senolytic, for sponsoring today's episode. A giant pile of garbage, huge leader inside Hamas, and he's dead. Thank God, he's gone. Bye-bye. Hamas has been decimated. Right now, current actual assessment is they're sitting at right about 20% operational strength. according to pre-war estimates. So there is less than about 8,000 Hamas fighters, by my best guess, that could possibly be remaining inside Gaza. And there's still firefights taking place right now inside of Rafah, inside of Jabalia, and several other locations across the Gaza Strip, hunting these pieces of crap down. And they're all surrendering. A lot of them are turning themselves in, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago. That's a good thing. That means their will has been broken. But the ones that remain, mark my words, are going to be some of your hard-headed fighters that are not going to go anywhere. Likely, they're going to end up stripping themselves back into the shadows, away from the fight, and wait for everything to cool off and attempt to rebuild and reorganize for when the IDF actually enters the occupation and rebuilding phase of this war. We're going to talk about something that everybody on the planet should actually care about, and that is the regrouping and reorganizations of terrorist networks over inside of Afghanistan. And why is that important? Because we've had reports coming out of Gaza that some of the Hamas fighters have been using PVS-14s that the U.S. probably left behind inside of Afghanistan. Additionally, I've seen brand new M249 machine guns on the ground inside of Lebanon. Now, I'm not saying that the Taliban has provided these weapons and material support to Hezbollah and to Hamas. I'm just saying that stuff's been spotted and found over there. Now, this map that I just put up on your screen is from the Transatlantic Intelligence Continuum. They are a counterterrorism think tank. That's what they do. And all of this stuff, and I can zoom in on the bottom corner of this map for you guys, and they give a disclosure on it, just so you're aware. This is all open source information. This is a map of Afghanistan. We're going to go over in a sec. This is all open source information, and also some of it has been human intelligence. That means they are running their own intel networks over inside of Afghanistan, collecting information off of people that's allowed them to put all of this together. And this is rather scary. And we're going to be back to that map in just a sec. But before we do that, I have to put this up on the screen. This is an org chart that they ended up putting out. And I'm going to start zooming on this sucker because it's really scary. Osama bin Laden's kid actually ended up moving back into Afghanistan not that long ago. And I know you guys are like, why does that matter? Well, it matters a lot because he's carrying Osama bin Laden's ideology along with him. And he is linking up with Haqqani. If you guys are unfamiliar with the Haqqani network, I highly suggest you look into that. Also with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda now. He is going in as the rep from Al-Qaeda, and they are all putting their feelings aside because they all have the belief, all right, that Israel and the United States are the enemy. So all of the Islamic infighting, they're trying to do away with. And that is something, all right, that Osama bin Laden himself was upset about over inside of Iraq. And he was urging the leader Zarqawi back then, who is the leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, or AQI, to stop killing each other. But Zarqawi wouldn't listen. And so eventually Osama bin Laden ended up cutting him off and was like, you know what? You're no longer a part of this. Now, I don't know if you guys remember that happening back then, but I sure do. It was a very big deal. And that is what ended up leading to the founding of ISIS. Believe it or not, was that leader underneath Al-Qaeda was too strong for Osama bin Laden. Think about that for a sec. That's what ISIS was. All right. They were originally part of Al-Qaeda. And then they offshot because they were too radical and they didn't want the infighting. At least Osama bin Laden didn't, because he wants them to be able to join together and create a network. Well, that is exactly what is taking place over inside of Afghanistan. And it also involves the IRGC, just so that you guys are aware, because all of these people have the same goal, and the IRGC themselves have given refuge, okay, to Osama bin Laden's kid as well. And that's where he was hiding out, and then moved back into Afghanistan from undisclosed locations inside of Iran. So why do I want you to actually care about this? Well, it's really important. Look at this map up on the screen. Every single flipping one of these dots, all right, are terror locations. And a lot of these are actual joint training compounds where Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and ISIS are all training together. And guess who else is rumored to be in there helping them out? If you guess the IRGC in the Haqqani network, you would be correct. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the scary part of what's to come. The place that we spent 20 years fighting a global war on terror to ensure that Afghanistan did not become a safe haven for terrorists is now a safe haven for terrorism. And it's happening right now under the Biden administration. I'll say that again. The location that is not supposed to be a safe haven for terrorism has just become a safe haven for terrorism. And they are all getting together and training together. I can't say that loud enough. What's their goal? To conduct a large-scale attack across the EU and the United States. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but like a month ago, on October 7th, when we were talking about those ISIS terrorists being arrested inside of Oklahoma for buying frickin' AK-47s, 500 rounds of ammunition, and wanting to shoot up on Election Day, you think they're the only ones in this country? Probably not. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I look forward to you guys next time. I want to thank Qualia Synalytic for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to check out our merch. It's linked in the description down below. Peace, love, happiness. God bless, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out of here.